You are now tuned into the Cut Game radio show hosted by Groom City.
It's the Cut Game radio show. We let them know we stay true
To the Cut Game.
Hey, what's going on? This Groom City, and you now tuned in to the Cut Game radio show. And in this particular part of the show, we like to refer to it as Groom City's Top 5s. And today, I'm going to be sharing with you my top 5 favorite haircuts to produce on a client. But before I get into my top 5 favorite haircuts, I just want to thank y'all. I just want to thank you guys for tuning in to the Cut Game radio show. I just want to thank y'all for supporting the movement. Now, there's so many dope haircuts out there. You know, you got different hair types, different textures, different ethnicities, different color of the hair. You know, so many dope haircuts out there. And you brush them a certain way, it can completely change the haircut, add product to the hair, completely change the haircut and the hairstyle, you know. But we all have our favorites. And today, I'm going to be sharing with you my top 5 favorite haircuts to produce on a client. Now, the haircuts I'm going to share today, I think these haircuts is dope and they are fun to do. They don't take up that much time. They're not demanding, you know, it's just a breeze. I would love to do these cuts all day just because I'm a fan of these haircuts, and it's just a joy for me to produce these haircuts on the clients. Now, the 5th haircut that I'm going to speak about today is, now this haircut has so many different names. Some people refer to it as an all even. My East Coast barbers refer to it as a Caesar. You know, my old school barbers, they may refer to it as a Covadis. Different communities might refer to it as a buzz cut. But that number 1 against the grain, or, you know, taking it real short against the grain, that is one of the best haircuts out. Regardless of your race, regardless of your hair type, your hair color, it's a good looking cut, especially if you have a strong hairline. You put that razor sharp hairline on it, just really brings it out. And what I really love about this cut is it's not time consuming. So this is a haircut that I get the best return on my time, and the client looks good. So 15 minutes, that client can be out and about taking care of what he or she needs to take care of, and it's looking good. You know, this particular haircut, I believe, is what makes Amber Rose so unique, you know, make her so popular, you know. So it's a lot of power in that buzz cut. It's a lot of power in that Covada. It's a lot of power in having that Caesar, that one against the grain. So the 5th favorite haircut that I like to produce on my clients is an all even, one against the grain, a Caesar. Now, my 4th favorite haircut I like to produce on a client is a wave taper. Now, before I break down the wave taper haircut, let me just give you some quick cut game regarding waves. Now, in my opinion, a wave is when your curl pattern is trained to lay against your scalp. So if you have a large curl pattern, you're going to have large waves. If you have a small curl pattern, you're going to have smaller waves. And if you don't have a curl pattern, then you're not going to be able to get any waves at all. But for the most part, you got to have a curl pattern to wear a wave haircut. So what I like to do with a wave taper, regardless if you have a large curl pattern or a small curl pattern, it seems like the blade I like to use, especially when the client comes in and he's been woofing. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with the term woofing, woofing is just when the client is training their hair to wave. Now, as it gets more length on the hair, that's improving their wave pattern. So they'll keep growing this length out, keep growing this length to the point that you can't even really see a wave pattern. And that phase is called woofing. So once they're done with their woofing stage, they'll come to the barber, and that's when we'll figure out the direction. Because, you know, it's 360 wave patterns, but in the wave community, they even got 720, or they got different type of wave patterns. But that's when we'll take the blade and go with the grain, and right when we cut into all that hair that's been growing out, it's nothing but trained waves up under there. So once you have that desired wave length on top, now it's time to add the taper to it. And I think the best taper is a ball taper. Certain parts of the states, they refer to it as a blowout, but it's nothing like having some nice thick waves, and right when it goes to the temple and the nape area, it just completely blends out to nothing, to bald. And what I also like about producing this haircut is that it doesn't take that much time. I don't care if a client comes in woofing, it does not take that much time to produce this haircut, you know, and it's also fun to cut. So my 4th favorite haircut I like to produce on a client is a wave taper. Now, my 3rd favorite haircut I like to produce on a client is the burst fade, or you could refer to it as the South of France. Now, I want to give a big shout out to Curtis Smith. First time I seen the South of France, it was on his client Usher, and I just thought it was one of the dopest haircuts I ever seen, And the fade that looks best on the South of France is when you burst fade it. Now, what I love about the burst fade is the location of it. It's in a unique location. It just gives the haircut a unique look. And I don't care what texture of hair you have, that burst fade is a good looking haircut. But all in all, South of France is a nice cut, especially when you have curly or coarse textured hair. It's just a good looking cut. And why I like to produce this haircut on my clients is that they're always satisfied. Always satisfied with this cut, always happy with this cut, and usually they'll show this by how well they tip me. So my third favorite haircut I like to produce on a client is a South of France or a burst fade. Now, the second haircut I like to produce on a client is a gentleman's cut. Now this is a classic cut, but I like the modern approach to this classic haircut. And gentleman's cut, that's for my straight hair clients. Regardless of the ethnicity, my clients with straight hair, the gentleman haircut is just a nice looking cut. It's a modern classic and just a good looking cut. And the reason why I like producing this haircut is my clients respond to me well with the tip. It's fun to do. It's not too time consuming, and it allows me to use product and get creative, get creative with the way I blow dry the haircut, get creative with how I manipulate the hair, whether I want a hard part or have a natural part with it. But my second favorite haircut I like to produce is the gentleman cut. So that brings us to the number one haircut I like to produce. And the number one haircut I like to produce on a client, and that is the Esquire. Now, I first got hip to the name Esquire from a book called The Principles of Cutting and Styling Negro Hair by Dr. Willie Morrow. Now, looking through that book, it tripped me out because the book is from the late 60s, and Willie Morrow got everybody in there with some nice fades. But when I was looking through the book, I noticed that I saw African-American male, and in that book they referred to them as Negroes, but that was a politically correct word back then. But I noticed an African-American male with a gentleman haircut, but they didn't call it a gentleman cut. They called it an Esquire. It was a wavelength cut. It's like a ball fade with a wavelength on the top, but it had a hard part on the left side. And I just thought it was the dopest cut ever. It had that gentleman's cut, but it was a gentleman's cut for people with coarse, curly hair. So what I like about this cut, it's just like I like about the rest of the cuts. It's fun to do. It's not time consuming. And my clients respond well to this cut. And Esquire look dope when you got big woolly beard. It looks dope when you just got a little mustache or something. It's just a nice professional looking cut. And it's suit and tie, or you can put on whatever they currently wearing right now. So it's a very neutral cut. It's a very versatile cut. So top favorite haircut I like to produce on my clients with coarse and curly hair is that Esquire cut, which is basically a gentleman cut on someone with coarse curly hair. So right there, that concludes my top 5 favorite haircuts I like to produce on my clients. If you have any questions, I already know what to do. You can DM us at thecutgame, or you can shoot us an email at thecutgame@gmail.com. I just want y'all to stay on your jet fuel, stay elevated, stay educating yourself, stay groomed. Peace.
That concludes our show. Please join us next week as we chop up game and share secrets to success on the Cut Game Radio Show.